45 blowers and his defense team are fucking stupid, and Dershowitz seems to top it all. Dear Republican senators, I will not try to convince you how to vote in the impeachment trial of 45. I won't even lecture you about the need for witnesses, in part because by the time you see this, it will probably be too late. My request is far more humble and possibly far more consequential. When you vote to acquit 45 of the charges leveled against him, please forthrightly reject the central argument of 45 attorney Alan Dumbass Dershowitz. According to Dumbass Dershowitz, abuse of power is not an impeachable act, which it technically is. Seriously, any abuse of power that doesn't include a separate violation of criminal law is immune from impeachment, he contends. Indeed, any act, whether you call it abuse of power of corruption, is for Dershowitz fully within the squatter's constitutional ambit. So a squatter who gets falling down drunk every day and fails to fulfill the barest minimum of his duties cannot be impeached because getting drunk isn't a crime? Do you want to validate any of that nonsense? I'm not picking that hypothetical out of the ether. During the Senate's Q&A session Wednesday night, Dumbass Dershowitz told basically the whole Senate's impeachment power over federal judges is different than that over squatters. He claims judges can be removed from the bench for violating the standard of what they call good behavior, which is technically not true. So Dershowitz conceded if a judge gets fallen down drunk on the job, the Senate can remove him. It would be hard to argue otherwise, given that the first impeachment trial held by the Senate removed Judge John Pickering from the bench in 1803. The primary charge was that he was a man of loose morals and temperament habits, who at least was once drunk on the job. But Dumbass Dershowitz argued the squatter doesn't serve only during good behavior because he's answerable to the voters. Technically, 45 doesn't answer to any of the voters. It's an interesting distinction. The only problem, there's nothing in the Constitution to back up his claim. There's also nothing in the Constitution or the Federalist Papers to support the idea that so long as a squatter doesn't violate criminal law, he can't be impeached. The standard response to this is, what about the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors in the Constitution? The only problem with that here, as most constitutional scholars will tell you, is that high crimes doesn't just mean violations of federal law. It would be weird if it did, given that when the Constitution was ratified, there were no federal crimes except for those mentioned in the Constitution, which is bribery, treason, and piracy. Alexander Hamilton, writing in Federalist 65, explained that high crimes are those offenses which proceed from the misconduct of public men, or in other words, from the abuse, violation of some public trust, presumably refusing to attend meetings, sign legislation, or conduct foreign policy because you were too busy doing keg stands in the Rose Garden, would be a violation of the public trust. Again, Dershowitz is almost completely alone among legal scholars alive today in making this argument, but he is not alone historically. Dumbass Dershowitz cites the legal arguments of Benjamin Curtis as a controlling precedent. Curtis was President Andrew Johnson's lawyer during the 1816 impeachment trial. Like Dumbass Dershowitz, Curtis argued that mere abuse of power wasn't enough for a squatter to be impeached. The squatter needed to seriously violate the law in order for him to be impeached. Johnson avoided removal by one vote, and Yale law professor Bruce Ackerman persuasively argued that the one vote was secured at the last minute, not through the power of Curtis's arguments, but by naked bribery. Regardless, because Johnson survived his impeachment, Dumbass Dershowitz has a lawyerly point. Curtis won, so maybe his argument has precedential power after all. If, and I should probably say when, you acquit the squatter, this precedent will gain even more power, and it's a terrible, dangerous, ridiculous precedent. The squatter's strategy of completely stonewalling an impeachment inquiry has damaged congressional authority enough. There's no fixing the damage of that precedent now, but validating Dumbass Dershowitz's claims that would take a sledgehammer to the checks and balances at the heart of the impeachment power, lending credence to the idea that squatters can literally do anything they want so as long as they don't violate federal law, including promising pardons to induce henchmen to commit crimes for them, an act James Madison considered impeachable, would cover the Senate with shame. Republican senators, I understand that you think it's necessary to acquit 45. Fine, the least you could do is offer a resolution stating that Dumbass Dershowitz's argument isn't the reason for your decision.